I'm Susan Page, Washington Bureau Chief of USA Today, and this is Capitol Download. We're in McLean, Virginia, at the home of Dick and Lynn Cheney, the former vice president, and their daughter, Liz Cheney, the former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having us.
You have co-authored a new book. It's called Exceptional: Why the World Needs a Powerful America. You know, I interviewed your former boss, George W. Bush, this summer in Dallas, and he basically refused to address questions about President Obama and his tenure in the White House. You've taken a different course. Your book is very critical of President Obama. Let me just read a sentence or two from your book. You say, the damage that Barack Obama has done to our ability to defend ourselves is appalling. It's without historical precedent. He has set us on a path of decline so steep that reversing direction will not be easy. So you've chosen a very different course from President Bush. Tell us why.
Well, I think it's sort of an agreement among former presidents not to criticize their predecessors. Certainly that's what George Bush 41 always followed that precept. And I think his son has done the same thing, and that's fine. That's their call. I'm not bound by any such precept.
You write at length about his current top foreign policy priority, which would be the Iran nuclear deal. And you not only say it's a bad deal, you compare it to Prime Minister Chamberlain's Munich Agreement, the notorious act of appeasement with the Nazis. Does that go pretty far, Liz Cheney?
I think it's completely justified. I mean, I think if you look at the details of what this deal will do and what it will provide to the Iranians and the concessions that were made, concession after concession after concession on our part, I mean, virtually everything the president told us about this deal has turned out to be false. And it's frankly hard to imagine a much more damaging or ill-advised piece of diplomacy.
I really think it's a travesty. It should not be approved. I think members that vote for it will regret it long term. I think they'll look back on that as one of the worst votes that they ever cast. I think it deserves to be rejected, and we ought to go back to the drawing table.
In your book, Exceptional, you write at length about the rise of Islamic State, the brutal terrorist group that has been so alarming to so many Americans. At this point, do you think the United States should be prepared to deploy a significant number of U.S. troops on the ground in Iraq to battle ISIS?
It may not be necessary to do that. I think that the first thing we've got to do is recognize that ISIS is a threat and that they've got to be defeated.
I think the threat is so great by ISIS that your objective has to be to eliminate it. If you state as your objective that we've got to get rid of ISIS, we have to defeat them, then you do what you have to do to defeat them.
Including troops
if that's what it takes.
Talking about the rise of ISIS, you put a lot of blame on President Obama and his policies, especially his unwillingness to do more in 2012 and 2013 against Syria to help the Syrian rebels there. Some analysts also put some blame on your administration for the invasion of Iraq and for the toppling of Saddam Hussein that they say opened the door to turmoil in the region and has contributed to the rise of ISIS. What do you think about that?
I don't believe it. I look at the state that Iraq was in when we left office, and it was in very good shape after the surge the president decided upon in the beginning of 2007.
But your administration also foresaw the withdrawal of U.S. forces from Iraq.
We did, with a stay-behind force to work with the Iraqis behind to continue to work with their forces. That stay-behind forces required a status of forces agreement, which they never negotiated. Barack Obama didn't want to leave anybody there.
You talk about the 2016 election in your book as a really critical one to reverse the policies that you think have been destructive and ill-advised. So who do you like?
We have religiously avoided picking sides or endorsing anybody at this point.
Some people might say, you're not endorsing Jeb Bush. You worked for his dad. You were Secretary of Defense for his dad. You were Vice President for his brother, but you're not supporting him?
I have not endorsed anybody. Jeb's a good man. I thought he was a good governor in Florida. He's got to go out and earn it the same as anybody else does.
And Hillary Clinton, we know from her memoirs and others that she took a more muscular view on some of these issues than Barack Obama did. Do you paint her with the same brush as Barack Obama, or do you think she might be a more acceptable president when it comes to these foreign policy and defense issues?
I think that, she has a lot of explaining to do, particularly on issues like Benghazi, which we haven't talked about yet.
I want to talk about the recommendations you make in the book, but you just mentioned Benghazi. Let me just ask you, Hillary Clinton dismisses the Benghazi incident as one that's been well explained and thoroughly investigated and not more there to say. Do you disagree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's, Susan, that's a classic Clinton approach. Oh, this is old news. So I think there are still significant questions to be answered about what happened, and I think it raises significant questions about her fitness to serve and to lead.
I think she's got some other problems too. I mean, I'm fascinated by watching the server scandal or controversy, whatever you want to call it.
You think that's a serious security breach?
Very serious. I mean, you think about it. We sit around now, we've got, who knows, Chinese maybe hacking into our systems, getting all the information about all current and former government employees of the United States. If they can do that, they probably can hack into her personal server that's not operated under any kind of secure considerations in her home or her garage.
Well, on that subject, we're coming up on the anniversary, once again, of the 9/11 attacks. There was a point after those attacks where there was a willingness by the American people to support more military spending and surveillance of telephone metadata and enhanced interrogation techniques, all of which you talk about in your book. That's declined as the years have gone on. And I think a lot of Americans look at this and say, we overreacted in the immediate aftermath of 9/11, and now we're finding a new and better balance. You would disagree with that. I mean, is that right?
Yes.
You would say that we should go back to the kind of footing that we had soon after those attacks.
Now, is the threat any less today than it was then? I don't think so. The situation over there, rising radicalism, increased areas of control, the caliphate as well as now ongoing proliferation efforts, all say to me that the threat's greater than it was on 9/11. And we're foolish to be stripping ourselves of the capabilities we need in order to protect ourselves against a future attack.
Liz Cheney, Dick Cheney, thanks so much for joining us on Capitol Download.
Thanks, Susan.